So, Zach, I don't know if you saw this article. I know we talked about it this past week in preparation for the show, but this was an article in Kiplinger that we saw. That and I immediately thought of one of the prior discussions that we've had on the program when you've joined us before, and we were talking about some of the relationship things or things that you can do in your relationship to help improve your overall finances. And so I saw this article, thought it would be kind of neat. These are the sort of the financial red flags to watch out for as you're entering into that relationship, how you can identify them and sort of what you need to do to address and solve them as well.
Absolutely. And you're referring to the conversation that we had back on January 12th covering those topics, of which I divulged to you that I have a monthly budget date with my spouse where we sit down, we pick a restaurant around town, and we sit down with all my spreadsheets and papers, and we talk about the finances for the month.
You're such a romantic devil, Zach. That is just, man, it just warms my heart, if you will. But talk about a really, I kid. That's a really great idea that more couples should do, because these financial red flags that we're going to talk about in this segment, these are not easy issues to overcome if you and your partner are simply not on the right page. You really need to have a perspective of how hard that is to have that conversation, and particularly when these kind of red flags emerge, making sure that you're getting a full discussion on the table. And that can be awkward, that can be difficult. Obviously, you're becoming vulnerable, but the reality is it's better to have that conversation than not have the same vision of what your future might look like.
Right, and you definitely want to be on the same page with that. So the first red flag that we saw in this article is simply not talking about money matters in general. That kind of lends to itself. Yeah, it probably, if you don't have that conversation at all, that could be a red flag. There could be some stuff hidden in there, if you will.
Right. I mean, if one person in a partnership is sort of secretive about their spending, that's a problem. Transparency, as with anything, is certainly key to discussing matters of money. And I guess what's interesting, and I think, Zach, you might have found this study, but I'll give the overview to our listeners. So this is a recent study that noted some interesting generational differences in how people view their personal spending. More than half of Gen Z coupled consumers admitted to some spending in secret. So where they'd spent some money and they did not tell their partner about it. Furthermore, twice as many Gen Z coupled consumers actually have separate accounts compared to their baby boomer counterparts.
That's pretty astronomical. That's pretty interesting. That secretive spending, I mean, I don't think I could have that on my conscience. Just me on myself. So I can't see where that would have a positive impact on your relationship to have that secretive spending. And then just imagine yourself decades from now finally divulging that secret spending. I just can't see that ending well. That's just not going to end well, if I had to imagine.
Well, that is for sure. And that is, it can certainly derail any of the goals you might try and set along the way, right? I mean, that's a big part of it.
Correct. I mean, especially if you're working together with your partner, and then while they're kind of doing this secret thing on the side, and then all of a sudden that comes out, and then it's, how do we go from here? How do we plan from here? You never told me about this kind of a situation.
Well, and I guess that leads us to sort of the next red flag, which is if your partner is, I guess, as a result of their secretive spending, having to borrow money from family and friends on a regular basis, counting on others to kind of shore up your income along the way and pay your bills is probably not a good thing.
Definitely not a positive thing. We understand if it's a little thing here or there, but
that's life.
That's life. I wouldn't say though that it's great to have to go to family or friends to pay your monthly bills, right? To go to them every single month and say, hey, I need X amount of dollars to cover this thing. That's definitely probably going to be a red flag for you going in the future with your partner.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So what are we up to? That was two of the financial red flags. I guess that puts us on number 3.
Yeah, absolutely it does. So the next red flag would be gambling or addictive behaviors.
Yep. No, that is that one is, I think, a real issue. Particularly for young males these days. I will be honest. I have 3 young males, all in their early 20s, and the widespread availability, and you see the ads all the time on television, if anybody still watches television, or on my streaming service, because they stick in those commercials, so I can't get away from that even on the streaming stuff. But I digress. The ability to place bets and to gamble, especially among young males, is just so significantly on the rise, and those types of behaviors are not good from a financial perspective. That is for sure.
Absolutely not at all. And I could speak from personal experience. I have a lot of friends that play in this realm, and it's right in your face. Yeah. And so if you, particularly with sports, right?
Right.
If you follow sports, it's everywhere you turn. It's everywhere, as you were saying, everywhere you watch. Even on streaming, they constantly have the ads floating out, and they make it very easy for you to do this, right? Yeah. So they have the apps. You can just get right on the app. You connect it directly to your bank account, and within 5 minutes, you've connected your bank, and you can just transfer back and forth. And it just seems so easy to do.
Yeah. Here's the latest stat on that. 70% of 20-year-olds reported gambling in the past year. 20-year-olds. You can't even buy alcohol. But 70% are gambling. And that's not a good thing. That's the kind of behavior that really can impact a relationship pretty dramatically, as with any other addictive habit as well. Right. That's for sure. Not good in any way, shape, or form. So I guess that gets us up to what's the next one here on our list? Next one on the list is the comparison trap, right? I mean, that's where you can always kind of get into trouble as well, especially with social media being what it is. You can kind of see what other people are doing, whether it's real or fake. The perception of wanting to keep up the Joneses is pretty strong out there.
Absolutely. And that is not age discriminatory. That has been around for as long as time. It just becomes more prevalent now because it's more in your face, particularly with the younger ages. You get on the Facebook, you get it on Instagram or what have you, and it's just right there. But a lot of people don't realize that most of the time people are putting on there the best part of their week or the best part of their month. Yeah. That's not a daily interaction. A lot of times it is their vacation. So it's not something they do every day, but the picture gets painted that way too well.
I saw somewhere there was a report where there was a private jet at a local airport that was renting out the ability for people to come on to the plane and